Hello, welcome. This is lesson 4.2 on completing the square. In this first part, we are going to review how do we multiply a binomial, and we have x plus 1 squared. That's the same as x plus 1 times x plus 1. And we can use, let's say, a box to do that. So if I make a box, it's a 2 by 2 box, so that's x plus 1 along the top and x plus 1 along the side. Then we just multiply like you do with times tables. X times x is x squared. X times 1 would be x or 1x. Let's go ahead and write the 1x, although we usually don't. And then over here, 1 times x is also 1x. And 1 times 1 is 1. And then we bring all of those individual parts, the four products, out, and we add them together. We get x squared plus 1x plus 1x plus 1. And these two in the middle are like terms. And so we get x squared plus 2x plus 1. And so the standard form trinomial that we get when we multiply x plus 1 times x plus 1 would be x squared plus 2x plus 1. And we're going to do that with each one of these. This next one, let's look at x plus 2 quantity squared is x plus 2 times x plus 2. This time I'm going to use the distributive property and just show that with the lines x times x, x times 2, 2 times x, and 2 times 2. And that gives us x times x is x squared, and x times 2 is 2x, and 2 times x is 2x. 2x plus 2x is 4x, and 2 times 2 is 4. And each one of these, x plus 3 squared, that's x plus 3 times x plus 3. And that gives us x squared plus 6x plus 9. And x plus 4 squared, that's x plus 4 times x plus 4. And that would give us x squared plus 8x plus 16. And then we have x plus 5 times x plus 5. And that gives us x squared plus 10x plus 25. And then finally, we've got x minus 5 squared. And that is the same as x minus 5 times x minus 5. And that would give us x squared minus 10x plus 25. Notice that one is positive. X plus 5 has a positive 10x in the middle, and x minus 5 has a negative 10x in the middle. And then we're asked to make some observations about the coefficients of the factored form. If we've got x plus a quantity squared and the standard form ax squared plus bx plus c, how do these numbers in the different forms relate to each other? And so I invite you to pause the video and pause on this and think about it for a second. But I'm going to go ahead. Let's say you've paused and you're back, so welcome back. This is the middle term bx is equal to 2 times x times a, or 2ax. And the middle term, or the first term, ax squared is just equal to x squared. In other words, it's because a is equal to 1, so we just have x squared. And then your last term, c, is equal to that big A squared. So just take your last term, this one right here is a, and you square it, and that will give you the c term here. And so those are some of the patterns we'd like to see. What if we have standard form and we're asked to factor it and write it as the factored form of perfect squares? So again, I invite you to pause the video and give it a try yourself to see some of these patterns, but I'm going to go ahead and pretend that you did pause the video. Welcome back. This is what we do. x plus 6 squared. Remember, you've got x squared is your first term. If I take the first term x and I square it, that gives me x squared. If I take 6 and I square it, I get 36, the last term. And if I take 6 times x, that's 6x, and then double it, I get 12x. So that's sort of how this works. So if we look at the next one, I say x squared. I know my first term is going to be x. So then it's just, what is that second number? What number squared would be 64? And the answer is 8. And then I just to sort of double check, x times x is x squared, and 8 times 8 is 64. And then if I multiply those two together, x times 8, that's 8x, and doubled would be 16x. So that takes care of that one there as well. So then I've got x squared minus 16x plus 64. And this time, because it's negative, I'm going to put a negative in here. And just like before, because it's 64, I'm going to put 8 squared. And just sort of double check, x times x is x squared. Negative 8 times negative 8 is a positive 64. Check. And then negative 8 times x is negative 8x, but doubled is negative 16x. And so everything is taken care of. This is correct. So now I'm going to take the next one and say, okay, x something squared. And I notice that it's plus 100. And I say, what times what is 100? And that answer for that is 10. So that would be plus 10. 10 times 10 is 100. And x times x is x squared. And x times 10 is 10x. Doubled is 20x. So all of that is accounted for. All right, in this next exercise, you're going to practice doing what the title of this lesson is completing the square. And what we're going to be doing here is actually completing the square. So if I have x squared plus 14, that should read 14x. If I have x squared plus 14x, what would I add to that to make it a perfect square trinomial? And so what I do is I take 14, divide by 2, which is 7, and then I take 7 squared, which is 49, and that's what I add. So I add 49 over here. But if I want to write it in its factored form, I say, well, half of that 14x, or half of the 14 is 7, so it's 7 that goes right here. X plus 7 quantity squared is the same as x squared plus 14x plus 49. And this step right here is going to be very important on the other side of this sheet when we start solving using completing the square. All right, let's look at this one. X squared plus 22x plus blank equals x plus something. So again, I'm going to take 22, divide it by 2, which is 11. And I'm going to take 11 squared, which is 121. So it's 121 that I'm going to add to that to make it into a perfect square trinomial, which if I factor it back, I would get x plus 11, quantity squared. And you can multiply that back out to verify that that is correct, but that is how we do this first page. So let's look at the next page. Oh, I skipped 3 and 4. Excuse me. Negative 8. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. And negative 4 squared is 16. So I add 16. And I over here I put x minus 4 squared. So that's number 3. Number 4 is a little bit tricky because 3 is an odd number. And so I say, well, 3 divided by 2 is 3 halves. And 3 halves squared is 9 fourths, because 3 times 3 is 9 and 2 times 2 is 4. And so what I'm adding on here is 9 fourths, but what I'm in the factored form, it would be plus 3 halves. So that's what number 4 looks like. All right, if you flip your page over, you'll see at number 5, it says solve by completing the square. I'm actually going to do this step by step and show you how this looks. So number 5, step 1. Make sure it's in standard form. And if there's a y, if they've got a y in the equation, set y equal to 0. And so we look at number 5. X squared plus 8x plus 7 equals 0. Remember that standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c in descending order by the degree. Degree here is 2, degree here 1, degree here is 0 as a constant. And it sure is in standard form. It doesn't have the y, it's already equal to 0, and so we're good there. So step 2. If necessary, subtract c, the constant, from both sides. And that will give you something, when you're finished, that'll give you something that looks like x squared plus bx, and this will be, I'm going to leave a space here, is equal to, well, I'll just put negative c since we subtracted it from the other side. So if we look at this one up here, we're going to subtract 7 from both sides. And that cancels the 7, and so we are left with x squared plus 8x equals negative 7. And here, I'm going to actually go so far as writing a plus, parentheses, on both sides, a plus and a blank, plus and a blank. So step 3 is add b over 2 squared to both sides of the equation. Okay, see what that looks like here. B is 8, so we've got 8 divided by 2 equals 4, and 4 squared equals 16. So we're going to add 16 here and add 16 here. And we have completed the square on the left-hand side. This right here is a perfect square trinomial. And that's important because now we can factor it back, which is number 4. Rewrite the left side as x plus b over 2 squared. Rewrite the right side. Rewrite right side. Combine terms. Combine the numbers. So let's look at this number 4 up here. We're going to rewrite this as x plus, and half of 8 is 4. So, 8 divided by 2 is 4. So we've got x plus 4 squared. These two highlighted portions are equal to each other. Is equal to, and then negative 7 plus 16 is 9. So just combine those numbers. Now this is hopefully looking closer to what we did in our last lesson when we solved equations by taking square roots. So number 5, take square roots of both sides. Remember, I'm going to underline that twice. Remember to add that plus or minus. So we take the square root of both sides. Square root of x plus 4 squared. We'll undo that square. Square roots and squares are opposite. So we take plus or minus the square root of 9, which just took the square root of both sides. And that leaves us with x plus 4 is equal to plus or minus, and the square root of 9 is a perfect square, so we write 3. And then finally, step 6, I'm just going to say solve for x. And what does that look like? We say x plus 4 equals plus or minus 3. So I subtract 4 from both sides. I want to get the x alone. I subtract 4 from both sides of the equal sign. X then is equal to negative 4 plus or minus 3. And recall that this is minus 4 plus 3, or minus 1, or minus 4 minus 3, which is minus 7. And so negative 1 and negative 7 are our two solutions. All right. Number 6 is x squared plus 4x minus 12. And I'm going to add 12 to both sides to get rid of that part so that I can complete the square. Cancels on this side, leaving x squared plus 4x equals 12. I'm going to leave a blank here. I'm going to put plus and plus to remind us that we are going to add something to complete the square on the left and to keep it balanced by adding it on the right as well. And so in this case, 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. And so what we're going to add to both sides is 4. And on the right, we're going to rewrite this as x plus 2 squared. On the left, on the other side, on the right, I'm sorry, I think I misspoke. 12 plus 4 is 16. Then I take the square root of both sides, x plus 2 squared, square root, equals plus or minus the square root of 16. Remember to add that plus or minus, and every time you take the square root of both sides. So I get x plus 2 is equal to plus or minus 4. And then I subtract 2, and I subtract 2, and x equals negative 2 plus or minus 4. And then I make note that this is minus 2 plus 4, which is 2, and minus 2 minus 4, which is negative 6. And so x is equal to, sometimes we'll write it this way in set notation, negative 6 or 2 or vice versa. And I am going to skip 7 and 8 and let you guys do that one on your own. Look at number 9. I will go through number 9 with you. With number 9, we want to subtract 55 from both sides. And that leaves x squared minus 16 minus 16x plus something equals, and negative 55 minus 7 is negative 62 plus, again, something. So over here on the side, I'm going to say, wait, negative 16 divided by 2 is negative 8. and negative 8 squared is a positive 64. So I'm going to add 64 to both sides. And then I can rewrite the left as x minus 8 squared. I can rewrite the right as 2. Negative 62 plus 64 is 2. Then I take the square root of both sides. X minus 8 squared is equal to plus or minus the square root of 2. And that leaves us with x minus 8 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 2. Can't simplify the square root of 2, so we're just going to leave it as the square root of 2. Add 8 to both sides. Cancels the 8. X then is equal to 8 plus or minus the square root of 2, which in some circumstances you can just leave your answer like that, but we're going to rewrite it as two answers. That's 8 plus the square root of 2, or 8 minus the square root of 2. And both of those answers are equivalent to each other. All right, well, good luck. Please reach out to your teacher or go to the tutoring that's offered at the school if you need the help. Good luck and keep working hard.